Here we have Rainbows and Sunshine, and I've never had another horse who also has Sunshine in their name, which is, of course, my personal horse's name, Sunshine Dandy. So we can't call her Sunshine. That would just be too odd. So we're calling her Rainbow or Rain, and she's a 15 3-hand 5-year-old thoroughbred mare by Rainbow Hair, and she's out of a flatter mare, which I like very much. She ran 23 times. She made 60K, and she literally just ran on May 1st, and she ran poorly. And I know her breeder, excuse me, not her breeder. I know her owner trainer well. I've bought several horses from him over the years. He's a really good guy, does a great job by his horses. And actually, it's a hilarious story how I ended up getting this mare so quickly. So I was driving to my friend Martha's place to ride on Saturday morning, and she had just ran on Friday afternoon or Friday evening. And even though in a past life I was a math teacher, I somehow did the math wrong in my head, and I left earlier than I needed to. I don't know. I was thinking I was riding earlier than I was. So we were going to be there like a ridiculous amount of time early, like an hour earlier than we needed to be. And so I was sort of, as I realized this, I'm annoyed at myself, realizing like, oh, I could have slept an hour later, and now what am I going to do for an hour? Just like, I hate just sitting around doing nothing. So as I'm pondering this, I get a text from William, her trainer owner, and he happens to be right down the street, about 10 minutes down the street from my friend's place. And he says he happens to have this really cute little mare who just ran poorly the night before, and she's just ready to go on to her next career. So, am I interested? And so all I have is her name and William telling me that she's a nice little mare. But I happen to have like an extra hour on my hands, and I also happen to be driving to the same exact sort of location. So I said, yeah, would it be okay if I just picked her up in like an hour? Because we actually happen to be driving there. So of course he said yes, and so we showed up like an hour after he sent me that text, and so it all ended up working out great. I got to kill the extra time I accidentally put into my schedule by horse shopping, which is one of the most fun things to do in the whole world. And I actually finally got to meet this trainer. I've known him for years and bought numerous horses off of him, but I've never actually met him myself. It's always been Billy going to pick up the horses. So I got to meet him, see his farm. He has some baby horses, which are adorable. So actually, it ended up being an amazing morning. And this mare is just so absolutely cute. And I was just so delighted when I met her because I didn't even ever picture anything. I didn't know anything about her except her name and what's available on Equibase. And she is just absolutely adorable. And she's so sweet, quiet, and easy. And obviously, she's soft and she's all the things. So I really just feel like, well, I don't feel like I lucked out because this trainer always sends me really nice horses. So, obviously, I'm going to trust whatever he says. But goodness, she's cute. And I'm just so pleased with her. And I'm just so sort of tickled at how all that worked out so well on Saturday morning. So yeah, I picked her up like a little over 12 hours after her last race. So now we're about 4 days out since her last race. And she's definitely a little tight. I mean, if you were, I know I was sort of blabbering on at the beginning of the video, but if you were watching the beginning, we cantered first because she wants to canter. And generally, when horses are sort of reluctant to trot very forward. And what I mean by that is like right there, actually, perfectly timed. Anytime I sort of want to put my leg on to send her a little bit more forward, she actually would rather just step into the canter. And don't get me wrong, it is an absolutely lovely canter. But when that happens, more than once or twice, sort of repeatedly, that's kind of a telltale sign that when they don't want to really have to push from behind in the trot, that they're just a bit tight, which makes sense. I mean, she's 4 days since her last race. Of course, she's a little bit tight. She's perfectly sound. There's absolutely no soundness issue here. She's just muscularly tight from having just come off the racetrack. And so that will just take a couple of weeks or a month or two for her muscles to just totally let down and sort of relax. And then so you'll see it happening there. That's because in that corner, I'm needing to work a little bit more to try and get the right bend. So I'm putting my inside leg on a little bit. And of course, then that's just sort of hard for her right now. So then she just wants to step into the canter, which is no big deal. So obviously she's not doing anything wrong. She's trying her hardest. It's not like you're going to get after her for that. You're just going to sort of gently bring her back down to the trot and just ask for, you just sort of keep asking the question until they find the right answer. And that's not always necessarily happening all in the same ride. But actually, from where she started to where she ended, she started sort of not wanting to track up. And by the time she ended, she was, and actually, this is, I think, our last little bit of trot bit, and she's moving just so much better than she was 8 minutes ago in our ride. And I only rode her for 10 minutes. I mean, she was super good and quiet, and also she's tight. Of course, I'm not going to drill her, it all kind of goes together. But from where she started to where she'd ended was hugely improved, which also just points back to, when your muscles are tight, as they warm up, they loosen up, and then you feel better. And so that's exactly what happened here. She's going to come out tightest, and as she goes, it loosens up and she feels best. So here, actually, well, there, she's wanting to canter a little bit. But then in this last little bit, I feel like she really was feeling just so much better. And she's just so soft and cute. She makes an adorable shape, and she's just absolutely beautiful. So here, this is some really good steps. She's really softening across her whole top line. She's tracking up. And so this is really good. So at some point, in a couple of weeks or a month, she will just come out like this. You won't have to warm up for 10 minutes to get there. But, she's 4 days since her last race, and that's where she's at. She's perfectly sound, but her muscles are just a little bit tight, and it's just no big deal. So she's been excellent to handle. Actually, more than excellent. She's been perfect to handle. She is so sweet and easygoing on the ground. She leads very well mannered. She's excellent on cross ties, super at the mounting block. And actually, when we picked her up on Saturday morning, then we went to Last Frontier Farm, where I rode with my friend Martha. And so I only had one other horse on the trailer, which was Cardinal. So she had to stand on the trailer by herself when I took Cardinal off to ride. And I'm always a little leery of that with horses the first time, because you just don't know how they're going to react to being left behind on the trailer. And she was perfect. I could not believe it. I think she nickered once or twice when we first walked away from the trailer, and then that was it. She was just absolutely perfect. So I knew right then that this is a really great-minded little mare. And she's just very sweet.